My name is Michelle, and the speech that I'm going to be presenting you guys with is Modesty in Women. To begin with what we're going to be talking about today is the history of women being modest in biblical times. Have you ever wondered how men and women looked in the Bible times? What they wore and what their material was made out of? Why did they keep to the modest look? What was the modest look back then? The great thing is, the Bible tells us all these answers and informs us how to be. According to the Bible, modesty is not what we just wear. It is how we act, how we are, who we are, and how we allow God to show through us. If we really think about it, God is very modest. As it states in Deuteronomy 22:5, a woman shall not wear a man's garment, nor shall a man put on a woman's cloak. For whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord your God. This was a law that we believe to still follow. How can you really define what a woman looks like from the outside? Her outward appearance, of course. In biblical times, the main distinct difference was a man wearing pants or something to support him underneath his cloak, and a woman wearing a dress or a skirt underneath her cloak. I never really knew what modesty was or what it meant when I first came into the church. I was really confused on it. I thought that the friends that I've made were just really classy people instead of, just women being modest. But enough with that. I'm going to go into the mid-20th century and how pants became their norm for everyone, especially women. How did this come to be? The women's right movements. Women were starting to wear pants even in the 19th century, but it wasn't really normal in the public's eye. It was never really worn, and not a lot of people saw it. Most of the time, people or women would wear it in their homes and just in their homes. But women wanted this to become a normal thing in their everyday lives, and so it began. Women were modest dress-wise in biblical times, and as the centuries after the Bible was written, there was a shift somewhere along the timeline of women having a desire to omit the dresses and bringing in the pants. This has happened in our past, especially in the United States. There are still some countries where women still wear dresses or skirts to keep modesty, like in Guatemala or in India. In the United States, this culture has obviously changed. The culture in the United States doesn't know much about modesty, in my opinion. People who are not in church follow the status quo, or what is most trendy at the time. What is modest to them may not be modest to us. Women wanting to start having this new normal trend because they were active in sports and it was more comfortable. Another point of why women started to wear pants during this time is during World War II, women had to take up the jobs of what men were doing. They had to perform and began to wear pants. Women wearing pants was a slow transition in the 18th through 19th century, and it was barely seen in the public's eye, as I mentioned before. Women like Elizabeth Smith Miller created pants-like clothing, and we wonder why. The reason why is that she wanted to create something to be more comfortable, and women wanted pants to be seen as normal now, instead of just something that you do or something that you wear because of a war or because you're going out for a sports event and you need to be able to wear something comfortable. They wanted it to be normal now. Elizabeth Smith Miller is a woman, and in 1851 she created bloomers. What are bloomers, you may ask? Bloomers were a knee-length skirt with trouser-like pants underneath, normally worn with a short jacket. She created these because this was during the Reform dress movement, where women were wearing tight corsets and uncomfortable petticoats that weighed up to 10 pounds. She wanted to create something comfortable for women. And as a presentational aid, I actually have a picture of what a bloomer is, and I'm going to be showing it to you guys. And you can see, that is what a bloomer is. But unfortunately, the trend died, sad to say, and people just thought that it was just too much to put on. It was a lot of work to put everything on just to wear pants underneath skirts. Another point that I have during this time is World War II. They had called everyone on board to help out, including women. Women had to stop doing their normal day duties to go out and help fight the battle the U.S. was in. They often became nurses and dispatchers and wore the men's garment. Lastly, my last point in this is that women became active in sports and house-like chores where they wore trousers underneath to be more modest and more comfortable. So, like, if I were to go out to garden and I bent down, I would want to be able to be more comfortable and have something underneath. There are so many papers and articles on how modesty is looked upon on outward appearances. But modesty isn't just that. 1 Peter 3, verse 3 through 4 states, "Do not let your adorning be external, the braiding of hair and the putting on of gold jewelry, or the clothing you wear, but let your adorning be the hidden person of the heart with the imperishable beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which in God's sight is very precious." Modesty doesn't just have to do with what you wear on the outside, but it's who you are on the inside. It can look different or seem different for all types of people, but modesty in God's eyes is what truly matters. And lastly, my point in this is that modesty is holiness. We are made in God's image. As we looked into the knowledge of modesty in women, dived into the history and seen the biblical backgrounds, I hope this speech was informative and adds on to your own knowledge of modesty. Women for ages have been wearing dresses as a way to show distinct differences between men and women up into the mid-20th century. I hope this speech helped you better understand why women started wearing pants and the modesty of it all. We looked at the history behind women modesty and the biblical stand on it. Modesty in women began since the beginning of time. Women held up to that modesty standard and what they wore. The evidence and history of it is very important to know and to understand where all of this came from. And what I'm going to leave you guys off with as my audience is, what does modesty look like to you?
Boom!